What is going on? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today I want to talk about Healthier Choices Management, ticker is HCMC. I want to go over the massive update that just came out and what that means for investors. Before I do, making sure you guys hit that thumbs up and subscribe is always greatly appreciated. With that, let's get right to it. So why this hits home and why I'm so excited about this update is because I've really been covering HCMC for a while. Some of you may be actually sick of it, but when I first started my YouTube channel, I started with HCMC. I got really invested with them, and in general it is a very good company. But no matter what, in a lot of my updates I've always said they needed to do several different things, such as a buyback, such as just a spin-off company as well. So there's a lot of things I've been really saying for the longest time, but they're finally doing something. So I did wake up this morning to see a tweet from HCMC itself. HCMC followers, please click the link below for HCMC's press release for its 4-point plan to increase shareholder value, including a share buyback program, spin-off company, shareholder dividend, and institutional equity raises. Thank you, as always, Jeff. That definitely was a very good thing to see and wake up to. And even looking at the price as of right now, so currently 238 million shares being traded within the first 1 hour of the trading day. So that is absolutely huge. And we have been barcoding between that 0001 and 0002 for a very long time. And as you can see, normally it's been kind of more oriented in the little bit more of a split between the two, but right now it is very oriented towards that 0002. So this might be the day, despite the massive red day in the broader market, this might be the day that we actually do break out of this trend and actually start trading between that 0002 and 0003. A nice reward for a lot of investors. But I want to get right to it. So as you can see, so HCMC announced 4-point plan to increase shareholder value, which the plan does include a buyback of common stock, subsidiary spin-off, stock dividend, and equity capital raised through institutional investors. So dear valued investors, at this time I would like to once again thank you for your continued loyalty and support. And I think that's a very good way to start off a letter, because outside of this, the previous letter, which was I think in December of 2021, that is when they first started to talk about a share restructure and how it's going to be beneficial for investors. So roughly about 8, possibly 9 months later, we get this. I think this is going to be a very well rewarded thing for investors that have been diamond handing. So before I get any further, just make sure you comment in the description below. Give yourself a high five, especially for diamond handing this through thick and thin since last December, because it's been a wild ride, but hopefully this might be the start of something good. So with that, let's keep on going. It does go over the past year's successes. A lot of good successes happening to HCMC after the restructuring, but still what we want to know. So part of the plan is including a share buyback up to $5 million of HCMC stock. So that is pretty substantial. As you can see right here, it does work out to be roughly about 27% of HCMC's current capital. So that definitely is a pretty big deal. So they're definitely investing into the investors, if you want to call it that. A weird way of spinning it off. But speaking of spin-off, so a spin-off of certain HCMC assets to include a new publicly traded company called qcup. And in here, it does hypothetically talk on how they want to be part of the New York Stock Exchange. So it is going to most likely kick in fourth quarter of 2022. So qcup will receive HCMC entities such as the retail stores, Paradise Health, Nutrition, Mother's Earth store. So basically everything that they're part of their new plan. And if you go on their website, based on what their focuses are, it's all of that. So qcup is going to be the old HCMC, if you want to call it that. So previously, what now the new HCMC is going to encumber is obviously everything that I was a very big fan of. So such as the vape store, the qcup, things along those lines. And it does say right here, HCMC is going to retain its intellectual properties. So in general, it is a pretty good split if you ask me. So for those of you that got into HCMC because of the lawsuit, or potentially just like qcup or whatever it is, definitely you can stick with HCMC or have that new spin-off if you like the new way of HCMC where they're going, or if you want to call it qcup, then definitely it's going to be very beneficial. So that is number 2. As far as number 3 is a stock dividend to HCMC shareholders of the stock in qcup on a to be determined record basis, or record date if you want to call it that, of 100% of the initially issued shares of the new public company. So that's going to be a pretty substantial basis. And it does say they want to do a 10% dividend, and that the new initial price of qcup is what they're assuming is going to be $10. So when it launches on the New York Stock Exchange, it's going to to be starting an IPO if they are going that route of $10. So hypothetically, you're going to get a $10 dividend. Basically, it's free money, just moving HCMC over to NewCo. So it's a good way to transition. And in general, I think that's a very interesting and good way of doing that. And this way it does avoid any taxes. So that's going to be a very big deal. Keep in mind on all of this, I'm not a financial advisor, so do your own due diligence at the end of the day. And finally, equity capital raises from institutional investors to strengthen and fund both HCMC and NewCo moving forward. So most likely this is going to happen before Q4, so then you can capitalize on that transition, because keep in mind it does say NewCo wants to kick in as far as fourth quarter of 2022. So by them doing that, that means they need to do that by the fourth quarter. So in general, that's a pretty good thing. So it does go over right here, the equity capital raises, insofar as HCMC will no longer have the same level of assets, because obviously of that spin-off, HCMC as we know it is going to be basically split in two. So you can see as far as right here, the market cap is 67.948 million. So in general, there's going to be NewCo, which most likely will take the majority of that, so probably around the 40 million, if not more. And then there is going to be the HCMC that we all knew and love. That's most likely going to be around the 20 plus million, around there. But obviously this is before we do have any equity capital raises. So that's going to be a very big deal. So it does say that they want to do roughly about a 10% discount on the 5-day VWAP, as what they typically like to do. It is going to be an initial 13.25 million by institutional investors. So that's going to be enough to actually fund a lot of what HCMC or even possibly what NewCo wants to do. So it's going to be very interesting to see how all of this works, because if you think about it, what HCMC has for assets, they haven't really done too much with the qcup. They have really developed their website, but a website can only do so much. So it's going to be very interesting to see if there's any individuals that are willing to stick with the old school HCMC versus just switching over to NewCo. I think the advantageous one might be switching to NewCo. So let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. So in summarization, they are asking for approval of a reverse split. So that's going to be a very interesting thing. That's how they take, hypothetically, the 5 million of buyback and all of that. That's how they're going to get that initial capital out. So that's going to be a very interesting thing that they do. Hypothetically, 9 times out of 10, reverse splits are a little bit more negative, but given the circumstances around HCMC and what they're trying to accomplish, I don't think it's justifiably bad. And in general, though, even in previous videos, I did say that that was the next logical step, is what they were going to do, because they are unfortunately still burning a lot of cash. So they most likely would need to actually do a equity raise in general. So it's funny, all 4 points, I hit the nail on the head. I've literally been saying each and every point that hypothetically, if they don't do something, they are going to be forced to do a reverse split. And then at that stage, they'll have to do an issuance. And then obviously to satisfy investors, I've been saying for the longest time that they needed to do a buyback and possibly just a spin-off of a lot of their assets that they aren't really capitalizing on. So it's funny to see that they're actually doing a spin-off of all of their assets that they actually care about and leaving all the undesirables, if you want to call it that, to HCMC. So it's interesting that I just want to start fresh. My own 2 cents on all of that, but it does look like I already mentioned, that it is going to be tax-free to shareholders, that spin-off transaction. And once again, I'd like to thank you all for your continued support, and I'm hopeful that now our new plan can be released and explained in some detail. So if you do have any comments or questions about any of this, let me know in the description below. Personally, I think this is a very big deal and very exciting for investors, and finally something is happening. Buyback is going to be very beneficial, but unfortunately at the same time, they're doing an equity raise of roughly about 13.5 million, so definitely still going to be negative in the grand scheme of things, especially as well about the spin-off. So it's interesting as well to see how they're really handling their old school assets. So HCMC is going to stick with the, like I mentioned, all the undesirables, but still, I've been saying that they needed to do all of these things for the longest time, and basically since December we've been on the edge of our seats just waiting for them to actually do something. So let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. If you haven't already, hit that thumbs up and subscribe, especially if you are a long-term investor, diamond handing. Give yourself a shout out and especially hit that thumbs up. It helps push out a lot of HCMC content, or even NewCo, whatever you want to call it now. So it's going to be very interesting to see all all of this develop, and as we have seen this whole transition of HCMC. So it's going to be a very fun time for years to come. So with all that, I appreciate you guys watching, and let's all make a lot of money on HCMC/NewCo.